We're going to be talking about how to make our own weaving project out of paper. So we're going to have a few words that we'll be using to make our paper weaving project. The first is our loom, and the loom is going to be one big sheet of paper that we're going to end up cutting, and that's what all of our pieces are going to be woven into. That's the loom. In the loom, we'll be cutting our warp, which is going to be little strips still attached to the paper that we're going to weave our waif through. And the waif is these colored strips of paper that I've run through my paper texture makers. So I have some circles, some diamonds, and some little ridges. And I'm going to have some just plain straight paper ones just to give it some variety and texture. So the first step is to prepare the paper loom. And to do that, you're going to choose one big sheet of colored paper, and then we're going to be folding it like a book. I'm going to line my edges up the best I can and fold it in half. Next, I need to take my scissors, and I'm going to still keep it folded. I'll be cutting this paper loom into little strips, but I'm not going to cut all the way, so watch. Here's the open side of my paper, and here's the closed side. I'm going to cut from the closed side, the fold. I'm going to go all the way up and then stop about 1 inch from the top. If I went all the way, I'd snip my paper strips off, and I don't want that. So I'm going to keep spacing them about 1 inch apart and also stopping about 1 inch from the top as well. So I'm cutting strips into my loom. And these strips are going to be called the warp. I can squeeze one more in there. Okay. When I open up my loom, I see all my little strips in here, which are going to be my warp, still attached. And if I hold it the tall ways vertically, I should see my strips like this. Okay. So now we're going to start weaving into our paper loom with our waif. And again, I have some that are textured, and I have some that are going to be plain. So since I have such bright colored paper, I think I'm going to work in a pattern. So I have one of each color so far. Let's see how far we get. The first step in weaving is to grab your waif and lift up your first piece of warp. And we're going to follow an over, under, over, under, over, under pattern. So here we go. I'm going to take my waif and go over my first piece of warp, under my second, over my third, under my fourth, over, under, over, under, over, under, and over, and finish on under. And I'm going to make sure that I hold my waif colored paper all the way up to the top. It's nice and tight, okay? And that is my first piece in my woven project. Now the next step is a little tricky, but we'll go through it together. I'm going to take my second color piece of waif, and you see how the first one I started with an over? Well, on my second one, I'm going to start with an under this time, but I'm still going to follow the pattern of over, under. So here we go. Under, over, under, over, under, over, under, over, under, over, under, and end on over. And then again, I want to squish these up to the top so it's nice and tight. That way they won't fall out. Okay, grab my next piece of colored paper, my wave, and you see how that last one we started with an under? Well, guess how I'm going to start this one? With an over. So over, under, over, under. I got to make sure I don't skip any. Over, under, over, under, over, under, over, and under. And then again, squish it up to the top. Okay, now I want to grab my next piece of wave. And this last one we did started as an over. So take a look at our pattern up on the sides. Over, under, over. So how does this one start? This one starts as an under. So we go under, over, under number 3, over number 4, under number 5, over number 6, under number 7, over number 8, until we get it all the way to the end. And then squish it up to the top so it's nice and tight. Okay? So my next one starts as an over, under, over, under, over, under, over, under, over, under, over, and under, and then squish it to the top. Grab your next piece of wave and keep going. Follow that same pattern. By the way, what is my loom starting to look like? I'll give you a hint. It's a really fun game. Usually black and red. Kind of looks like a checkerboard. If I keep following this pattern all the way down and making sure that I'm pushing my wave pieces nice and tight to one another, then I won't need any tape to hold those in place because they will be held in place by one another. Can you see my pattern starting? I almost missed one there. On the back of my loom, I will put my name when I'm done. Over, under, over, under, over. As I get towards the bottom, I have a little bit less room to move my warp pieces around as I weave my wave. So it's going to get very tight very fast. We're just going to go as far as we can. Making sure we follow the over-under pattern and squishing each piece nice and tight to the next one so that there's no chance of it falling out. By the way, the reason why this looks so much like a checkerboard is the strips that we cut when we first folded our loom were about 1 inch, and the strips that we are weaving in as our wave are also about 1 inch. So when we put those two together and we overlap them, we get a square pattern, and that's what a checkerboard is. It's a square pattern. And I think this yellow one will be the last one that fits. Let's see. Yeah, I don't think I can get another one in. I'll try though. Oh, maybe. Started on pink and I can end on pink, my very favorite color. This one is certainly tricky though. I'm actually pushing it from the other end. Last one. Can we do it? All right. Perfect. Okay. And because they're all nice and snug, they're not going to come out when I move it around. I can still see the texture from my paper crimper in here. And on the back, on the end, I'm going to write my name, and my paper weaving is done.